Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to our December 11th Board of Supervisors meeting. We have with us Mr. Floyd Thomas, Jeff Black, Jeff Seeley, Reggie Underwood, Clay Forehand, and I am Nancy Long. We generally start our meetings with invocation, which I will give. And then we will have our Pledge of Allegiance this evening, led by the Hayes children. And they can come right on up to the podium when we do that. So if everyone please stand. Let us pray. Dear, most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us safely here tonight. We ask your grace as we travel home. Keep everyone safe. Be with us as we enter this holiday season to keep your spirit alive in our hearts. And may your wisdom be with this board tonight as we try to make the best decisions for all our citizens in Caroline County. These things we ask in your name. Amen. And if you'd like to come up to this microphone, children, and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be wonderful.
I pledge allegiance to the flag in the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's it.
We now have opening comments and generally run up the pike, but I'm going to start this evening. This is my last meeting as chair. I wanted to extend my thanks to staff and to my fellow board members for a very educational and fun year. I've enjoyed it. Gotten to know, I think, our staff a lot better, and I just appreciate everyone's support and patience as I learn what I'm supposed to do as chair. Maybe next time I'll have it down packed. But I also want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday season, and thank those citizens that do come out to our meetings. Without your input, it's not really your government, so you need to be involved, and we always appreciate seeing faces out here. And especially tonight with the cold weather and the snow on the ground, we appreciate everybody being here. So again, thank you all for all your support during this past year. And now we will move on to Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank the young folks, the Hayes children, for doing the pledge. I learned to not ask the children themselves, so I did ask the parents. But to me, there's always something special when young people do the pledge, because it symbolizes the hope that really is America. So I really thank you for that, and it makes me feel good. I've got a couple of other things, Madam Chair. I don't know if the board is aware, but you may be, that Walter Young, a former member of the school board, passed away last week, and his funeral was postponed, excuse me, due to the snow on Sunday. And they are going to have a memorial service at the high school on Saturday at 12. And I just thought it would be good for us to at least know and show Mr. Young was a well-known member of the community. And speaking of schools, there's a new superintendent. So I hope staff will arrange a joint meeting with both boards so we could talk to the new superintendent. And I have a constituent meeting. We moved the date. I don't see George. But we moved the date to the 18th, which is next Tuesday, 7 o'clock here in the EOC. And then I have one thing that doesn't affect me personally or directly. It does affect me personally. I got a news flash on my phone today, and it was regarding diabetes. And they said 1 of 10 Americans has diabetes in some form or another, but that currently insulin prices were skyrocketing. And it's, again, another case. It's like the EpiPen case a while back where folks need this drug, but yet the drug industry, and in particular one maker who's got the market on it, is raising prices, and it's safe to say they're getting close to gouging people. So I urge the board members to contact their federal representatives so we can at least voice our displeasure in hopes that the federal government will do something to stop the rising cost of drugs. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Very welcome. And Mr. Thomas, we do have a joint meeting with the school board scheduled for January 22nd at 4:30.
Oh, excellent.
Mr. Black.
Yeah, mine are actually going to be lengthy, so I do want to go over that quickly. I do, first of all, want to thank the town of Bowling Green. I was a participant with the Ladysmith Rotary Club this year in the Christmas parade, and every year they do an amazing job with that parade. So special thanks to them for hosting. Jo Elsa does an excellent job, and everyone who helps her with that parade. Second of all, I want to say, due to the recent storm, I want to have kudos to all the employees that were responsible for and continue to be responsible for clearing off roads and so forth. I do want to thank the superintendent for canceling school, even in Spotsy. It's another day off, and I'm sure the children are very disappointed by that, correct, that you guys are off. Later on in this meeting, we have a discussion coming up about a plaque for fire EMS, to remember fire EMS who have served Caroline County. We don't have one, and it was actually started. She'll be showing up later. Ms. Taylor will be showing up later. And it's really something. It says no impact at this time. I really, she does want to do a fund drive, but I really do think we need to put some money towards it, simply because of the fact wherever we can discuss wherever it's going to be put. However, if it is a dedication to people who have served our county, fire and police, I really think there should be some county money involved there. Mr. Cully, if you don't mind, I don't know, we haven't seen them yet, the budget closeouts for, we're now into last meeting in December. The fiscal year ended July 1. I don't know when, or June 30th. I'm not sure when we'll be seeing those, but if we could get those numbers as soon as possible. I'm not sure if you have a ETA on when those final numbers are, because I think I remember last year getting those numbers before we kind of went into the new year, and we have not seen anything yet as far as okay. So if you don't mind getting those. Before the big announcement, I want to thank Ms. Long. You did did an amazing job, so I do want to thank you as chair lady for the year. The big one that I want to discuss tonight comes from the last meeting, and I want to read it because it's something that kind of bothered me in the last meeting. And at our last meeting, the Board of Supervisors made a decision that I hope will be reconsidered. We failed to pass a proposal that would have rewarded our employees who retire after 30 years with Caroline County a stipend that would help defray the cost of health insurance for 5 years. Our public teachers who retire get full medical benefits until the age of 65. Yet our county employees get nothing. This benefit would have been limited only to those employees who have served our county for 30 years. Furthermore, this benefit would only be available for 5 years. I heard arguments that this would cost the county too much money, yet over the years we have been willing to spend money on projects such as a YMCA, renovations to the Caroline County Community Center, an emergency entrance to Lake Landor, improvements to the Dawn Progressive Center, improvements to the gym floor at the middle school. While we have not always agreed on the merits of every project I listed, they have been passed and funded by the Board of Supervisors. While I heard the argument for runaway costs and pensions, this argument is not valid. Unlike corporate pensions, which go on for life, this was limited to 5 years and a total of $15,000 per employee. I believe this board over the last few years has done some amazing work, and I am proud to serve with each individual up here. We recently voted unanimously to improve county employee salaries. Let's now put our differences aside and to retain and reward those employees that are the biggest asset to Caroline County. I'm done with my comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Seeley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to recognize that I'm not sure most people realize that the community services parking lot has been redone and what a difference that has made. I'm just hoping we get to the sidewalks at some point that go between. but it really looks fabulous. The work is nice, and I will tell you that I think it's probably one of the most underappreciated situations. It got done kind of in the cloak of a weekend, and nobody really saw the work being done. It didn't impact anybody. I just want to give kudos for getting the parking lot done. Second, I'd like to also thank Joelsa Jordan and all the volunteers of Bowling Green that helped put together the parade. People don't realize what goes on behind the scenes to make that happen, and all those volunteers that work on that really do make a difference, and it does make the parade really make the town look fabulous. For those that don't know, this year we have brought back the Bowling Green Christmas tree, and the town and one of the other volunteer organizations in the town brought back having Santa in town in the evening for kids to come see, and it was done at the Masonic Lodge this year. It was a fabulous situation, and a lot of kids were there. We spent an hour or so there looking around at the Masonic Lodge. If you haven't ever been in it, the history on the walls is worth going to see. And last but not least, I want to thank Nancy Long for her year-long chairmanship and the great job she's done in the service to everybody in her role as chairman. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one comment. I want to echo the sentiment of Mr. Thomas regarding Mr. Walter Young, who passed recently. I would ask the board if we could possibly put together a resolution for the family to be presented. Mr. Young was an excellent member of the community, an administrator in the school, as well as on the school board. So just a dynamic leader in this community, and I think it would only be deserving if we could put together a resolution to be presented on Saturday. That's all, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add, I served with Walter Young on the school board for three of my 8 years. He was a fabulous leader and taught me an immense amount on being on the school board, having been a former administrator in this building at one point in time. I do echo Mr. Underwood's comments. We do need to send a resolution, and I'd like to see us send something to the family from the board.
All right. Mr. Forehand.
Just a couple. Wanted to piggyback on what Mr. Black said with a little different take on it. The kids might be happy that the school's out another day, but I'm confident those that have 3 school-age children at home will be very happy when school is back in session. Also want to recognize the county staff for getting the 2 gym facilities upgraded. A lot of times that our public facilities are kind of the face of what people from other localities, grandparents from out of town, things like that, measure a jurisdiction on. And the last few years, the gym in this building, the gym at Old Ladysmith Elementary, they've taken somewhat of a facelift, and they're much improved. The aesthetics, functionality, greatly improved. Also want to comment that I did attend the parade. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to, but the parade was probably the best I've seen it. It was fairly long. It was about an hour long, and coffee was a hot commodity that night. And I hope we brought some revenue to the downtown merchants, because it was a good event. And lastly, Ms. Long, I do thank you very much for your service.
Thank you for vice chairing.
I've learned much during my 3 years and from your leadership as well. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I neglected to also thank Caroline Promise and Parker Rex for helping out with the tree lighting in the town of Port Royal. I was there as a volunteer, and I think we probably had 125, 150, would you say, Johnny? It was pretty full. I don't think we could have fit many more in there. And it was wonderful having the decorations done by Parker Rex, Caroline Promise there, Santa was there, food was there from the community. So I appreciate that. I also neglected to say that Mr. Black and I did a little radio thing, Town Talk, a couple weeks ago, and we made sure we got a plug-in for the parade and tried to get some good positive feedback on the good things going on in Caroline, and that was all Mr. Black who set that up, so I want to thank him for that. All right, at this time, we move on to amendments to the agenda. I have two to,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we didn't mention the employee luncheon tomorrow
Oh.
as something that the board would like to attend and kind of a celebration for
yeah,
the county.
the employee luncheon is at Town Hall at 12 is the first seating, and 1 o'clock is the second seating, Pam. And awards go out at 1:15 to 1:30. So anyone who can make it, please come.
I
Yes,
apologize,
Mr. Ford.
I overlooked this. I have a constituent meeting scheduled for tomorrow. It was scheduled to be in Lewis and Clark Elementary. The school is now closed for tomorrow, so we are working on logistics to figure out where that will be because the school building will still be locked up. So stay tuned, and stay tuned for where that location will be. Thank you. Some burn barrels out in the parking lot.
Oh, you'll work it out. Maybe they'll come open it for you. Oh, gracious. All right, so I do have two amendments already on the agenda. Under one, under presentations, I have a special presentation to add as 1B, and you have a presentation too?
No, I need to scratch number 2.
We are going to remove appointments. And under consent agenda, do you want to add I would move that we do the resolution to Mr. Young?
Yes,
under
ma'am.
consent agenda. Are there any other changes or additions?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the agenda as modified.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Okay, now that all the little work is done, it's time to start our meeting, and we get to start today with some of my hometown folks from historic Port Royal. Ms. Cookie Davis, I take you're going to be telling us about all your wonderful works.
Thank you. My name is Carolyn Davis. Most of you know me as Cookie because I've lived here my whole life. I live in the Port Royal district, and I am currently president of Historic Port Royal. I'll begin with a little history. You know me, it's hard not to. And I'd like to comment on some of the things that you know and some of the things that you may not know. You may know that Captain John Smith came up to Port Royal in 1608, and you know that the American Indians did live up and down the river. But you may not know that many of the artifacts from that period are now to be found in the museum at Port Royal, collected by Mrs. Agnes Skinner. You may also know that Port Royal became a colonial seaport after the arrival of Colonel John Catlett and his brother in 1665. And they found great success in growing tobacco, and other plantations followed and grew tobacco, and all of these were sending their product to Port Royal to be shipped out. But did you realize that the town at that time and following it served for 100 years, over 100 years, as a commercial center for Caroline County? With the rolling road that came all the way to Port Royal, to the warehouse, the Royal Warehouse that was on the river, that same rolling road became Route 301 a few years later. You may know of Dorothy Roy, our own lady, who became the first and only woman to be given a license to run a Royal Tobacco warehouse in colonial Virginia. You probably know that by 1744, the English village had been divided into streets and named and had lots, all approved by the governor in Williamsburg. Thus the town took off and became a booming place. But did you know that during that colonial time, the population was once recorded as 7,000 people? Did you know that during the Revolution years, 1776 to 1777, Port Royal was not a quiet town. Salt was rationed. The ships came in. The soldiers and the sailors, they poured into the town. Smallpox broke out. Dr. John Tennant was ordered by the court to set up a hospital in Port Royal to inoculate and control the epidemic. A few years earlier, the pirate Newman was captured and killed just outside of the town on a creek that today bears his name. Perhaps this foreshadowed the capture and killing of John Wilkes Booth just outside the town 100 years later. Tonight I want to remind you that historic Port Royal was established in 1995 with the goal of restoring and preserving the historic integrity of this early seaport town. It is an organization that owns property and works solely with donations and grants for specific projects. Some do not realize that HBR is not funded by the town nor the county. Port Royal, the town, and historic Port Royal are two totally separate entities, each with its own budget and its own priorities. However, we do work together and try to help each other. A good example of this is that in the town hall, the portrait gallery belonging to historic Port Royal is located. Another example is that when the town has events like Pirate Day, we open our museums and welcome our visitors. But what you might not know really is the volunteer effort, including planning, meeting, documenting, and just plain labor that has gone into making HPR the organization that it is today. Many of you know that Herbert Collins has been and continues to be our major benefactor, but do you realize that the Port Royal Museum of American History contains local, state, and national collections? Our White House China collection is second only to what you might find at the Smithsonian in Washington. The museum has served as a center for information and the history of the area. Hundreds of people have stopped over the years to get information and have left saying, "This museum is a hidden jewel. It intertwines the story of this county with the history of our country." Now, 19 years ago, this county's supervisors voted to give HPR $3,000 to plan and organize a July 4th celebration for Caroline County. And we have done this year after year. And this past July, we held the 19th event using that same $3,000 advocated to us, plus quite a bit of additional money from our own treasury. This was happening even with cutting expenses to the very barest, and eliminating even some of the things that we had hoped to do. Now, July 4th is a totally free event. It's for the whole county and the community, but the expenses over those 19 years have more than doubled, and frankly, it's becoming harder and harder to have quality events with so little money allocated. I contacted Nancy, our supervisor, earlier when I learned that half of our board felt like we should concentrate on our original objective of saving the colonial town and no longer fund such costly free events. Now, tonight I want to know if you, the leaders of Caroline County, see value in the work that we do at Port Royal, and if you can support us with additional financial assistance. Next year's event could cost between $8,000 and $10,000. Is it possible for HPR to have a separate line item in the 2019 budget or just a noticeable increase in the tourism section that we are currently covered under. A $2,000 to $3,000 supplement to help cover last year's expenses would also be appreciated. I love Caroline County. I've grown up here, and I do appreciate the work you do. I have had family who have served on this same board. With your help, I think Historic Port Royal could do much more. We could expand our website, we could reach more people, and we could have free events for the citizens of this county and the neighboring areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Cookie. I have a quick question. You also have the school children come. Haven't we had, I know Miss Coleman does the schoolhouse tours, and didn't you have a group from the high school come down this year?
We had a wonderful turnout of students from the high school this year. Mr. Wick came out himself twice, bought books for the teachers to learn more about the county, and we did an all-day tour visiting the museum and the schoolhouse. And the questions the children ask, ninth graders, that they really didn't know, like, where's the water fountain? Where's the restroom? You know, do I have to go behind a tree? One of them asked me. You know, the things that they didn't know about what their grandparents had experienced in school. It was a wonderful experience for us as well as for them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly will take this under consideration, board, at budget time, if we could, what increase. Does anybody have any comments? Yes.
May I ask Ms. Davis a question? And I asked, Ms. Davis, could I ask you just a quick question, please? Before you sit down.
We're going to let you sit down, so you sooner or later.
And
Yes.
And the reason I'm asking you this question is because we're being recorded in a lot of ways, and I'd like to help the tourism aspect of Port Royal. So
I would too.
if you will just, when I finish the question, just say, I heard that, and sit down, I would really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay?
I can do it.
Now, I was told by one of your members that she had heard that but wasn't sure. There is a rumor and a story about Port Royal almost being the nation's capital. And it's been a rumor and a legend. The cameras are pointing this way. But the rumor and the legend has been out there for a while. So if you could just say, yes, I've heard that before, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, I've heard that before.
Thank you very much.
All right, our second presentation tonight, I need to ask three people to come forward, please. Kevin Reitman, Chief Loftus, Scott Moser.
Come on down. You're the next contestant.
To the podium, please.
What'd you do, folks?
I don't know this guy.
I don't know him either. No, he's a good guy.
But you both know this guy.
No, we don't want to.
Yeah.
You all fell out of the same ugly tree, I think.
He's a good guy. Okay, Kevin's taller.
All
That's
right.
what you wanted to know.
All right.
And
Well,
older.
listen, we want to say thank you to you all for the wonderful work that you do that is above the call of duty. And therefore, I'd like to read this for all of you and then ask you to come up on the stage. We'll get some pictures. In grateful appreciation of your initiative, hard work, and dedication above and beyond the call of duty in the construction of the Fire and Rescue Logistics Building, your commitment to service and sacrifice of your personal time saved the citizens of Caroline County tens of thousands of dollars and produced a valuable building that will serve the county well for decades to come. Thank you all very much. It's amazing what you did. So if you would come up front so we have one of these for all of you.
Good thing I didn't sing
I apologize.
We didn't tell you ahead of time because we thought you might leave.
You have to shock them.
Get away with the flag.
Flag? Where you want it? I think we need one of just them first, and then we'll get one of all the. I didn't know until.
She didn't know, but it was a big secret. And that was a foot, but okay.
Okay. They look about the same.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. That brings us to our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda to be adopted?
I'll make a motion, we adopt the consent agenda, items A through D.
I'll second.
All.
We edited it during,
Yeah, we did it
Yeah,
at
D.
the, D is the resolution for Walter Young. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Madam Chair.
Can we move to closed?
We could go to, I was going to say, could we go to, since the
Can we
whole
go to
Haynes
closed meeting?
family is here and they're waiting for 11, could we just, we could
Okay.
do, that way, I know they don't have school tomorrow, but your biggest cheerleader is right here for no school.
All right.
Well, one of them's disappointed that there's no school. You're not?
You want to start on this?
I thought they were, I thought one was disappointed, Mr. Thomas. I thought you were right
Yeah.
about that.
Mr. Sealy,
like it too.
I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
another suggestion. Why don't we just go to new business, because I think they'll be fairly quick.
Okay, that's fine. I was just
And-
saying, because we've
Just
got,
start at 11. Start at 11 so they can go to bed, even though
All right,
that,
we'll
yeah.
start
Go
at
on.
11 and move backwards. So we are going to move ahead, since we could not take public comment until 7:30. We're going to move over to new business, number 11, which is review of conditions for special exception for the Hayes business. I'm going to find it in my book here. Mr. Fincher.
Madam Chair, members of the board, item 11 under new business is review of SPX 06-2016 for Justin Haynes. It's a review of the special exception conditions that were approved by the board in conjunction with that special exception permit. The conditions as recorded and approved by the board are included in your staff report. Staff has been out to the property numerous times. And we have found that the applicant is in conformance with those approved conditions.
No complaints?
We've had some complaints over time, but any complaints have been resolved pursuant to the conditions.
Any other questions or discussions?
do we need a motion for this?
Yes, just
I
approve
make a-
them.
I guess the motion is to approve the 1 year or the 1 year review
Yes, sir.
as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you, Mr. Fincham.
Continue at
All
1
right,
year.
want to go
It goes to
upwards?
5. And I will thank him for all the help with my Chesapeake Bay retrievers. I have taken lessons there.
I warned you about Chesapeake.
I know.
They're smart.
Still love it. Still love them.
All right. Do we want to go to closed session, or we want to keep working on these? Okay. All right. Since we have, we're working on new business, let's start with 6. The new business and work our way down.
Madam Chair,
She has to wait for that one.
Yeah, she's not here yet. The lady who is supposed
Okay.
to be presenting, she's not here yet. So
All right.
What
Well,
about on the 12th?
7. Let's do 7 then. Chief Loftus is here,
We're gonna, real quick.
and he would like to get out
Then
of
we
here
can go into
early
closed session?
anyhow.
I don't think so.
So that is 7 in your book, gentlemen?
OSHA 511.
Chief, these are just so you can possibly see a human being inside a building,
Yes,
thermal imaging?
correct.
Okay, great presentation again.
You did a wonderful job.
Yeah, move to approve these.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
I just have a quick question, sorry.
Discussion.
We're going to do it the old one. Put those in the other.
Yeah. The units that were, the newer units bought in 2017,
Correct.
Not being replaced.
were they bought county money or department money?
Department money?
Would you think it'd be equitable to at least compensate them at least partially? They spent the money and now we're buying everyone else theirs, so it's...
If the board would like to do that, that's certainly up to you. It was a decision they made at the time, because there was no unilateral platform at that point. We are buying the same ones Lady Smith Fire has currently. Port Royal has one they purchased. That's up to you.
So when those are due to replace, we buy those? And
No,
that's
what,
fair.
I mean, they have an 8, 9, 10, 11-year life. What happened at the volunteer departments, at least in 2 stations, bought their own device, and the other ones did not. Now the county, a year later, is buying everyone else theirs.
Well,
So, anyway, that's...
But they bought them on their own initiative because they thought they wanted them before the county said they were going to do it?
At that point, when they bought them, we probably didn't have plans to replace them. Some of them today have been failing, and that's why we're looking to replace the lot. So those are only a year old, but again, they made that decision at the time to buy their own.
What do they cost individually? About?
$3,000 a pop. The technology and the cost have brought them down to a much lower price point.
Is there any value in the old units, surplus value, or?
We'll use a couple in training, but other than that, no, I'm not willing to. The batteries are killing us. They're about $400 a pop. We've had to throw some out. Bowling Green's Wagon 1 we threw out, couldn't repair it.
Just a curiosity more than anything else.
Do you want to make a motion to
We've already got a motion on the floor.
Oh,
Would you like me to amend my motion?
you want to amend it?
I think it'd be equitable, I mean, if whatever we would see fit as a group to compensate, even if it's half value, they took that initiative, they basically saved us some money.
Okay, why don't we do this? Because I think that's fair, and would require a little more discussion. Why don't we approve this motion, because that's what he wants to do now, and we could discuss what the contribution would be to the other departments during our budget cycle, which is just in a couple of months. And I would have no problem in, agreeing to do something like that once they decide what the number is.
That's fine.
Okay.
I got no issue with that.
Madam Chair, I'll call the question, please.
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Good point, Clay. Spoken like a true firefighter. 8.
Sure, we're somebody from the health department. See.
Yeah, I thought they
Do
were,
we have anyone from the health department here?
maybe they're going to come at 7:30. Do we want to hold off on this one and come back? Are they
Okay.
coming, Mr. Cully, do you think?
But this is.
I didn't think anybody was coming. They had written, the letter from Dr. Rossheim should be in your packet.
It's in here.
But now, the money they have is not because they had any special savings, it's because they didn't have staff.
Correct. That's just, and they saved it because they couldn't pay it out.
Now, this is also the same state health department who asked us to give them money back for services they didn't do a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, the way it works is they have a budget, and we contribute to that budget, and they get state money to that budget. And this money, is we're talking about, is June 30th money. It's basically rollover money they didn't spend last year's budget, and if they get it, they'll be able to spend it in this year's budget, but it won't affect next year, so it won't be like they can hire people because they won't, so it'll be one-time shot of money if they get it.
It's not like they can provide any extra services by giving them this money.
Well, maybe during this current year, they could do something or buy flu shots or whatever, but they can't hire staff because they have a certain number of staff that they're authorized by the state to have, and they won't be able to go up.
Will they get matching for these funds if we
Some
roll
dollars,
over?
yes, they do. Some
I mean,
back.
is it 20%, 10%?
That I can't answer. That would be a helpful
I was trying to
question.
figure that out in
I thought it
there.
was 50-50.
Well, it's like 70-30.
I will point out that we have plans to paint where they're leasing this year, and I believe the estimate on that's about $25,000,
That's what I mean.
which is, I think, why the recommendation is.
Yeah, it's a pretty
as it
good-sized
is.
building.
It's a big building.
A lot of little
That
offices.
back area
Yeah.
there.
But the landlord is normally charged with taking care of the building. So
Right, no, I agree.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
Painting
Right.
would be a
getting
normal
rent.
Right.
maintenance charge.
Depends on the type of lease. If it's a triple net lease and they're paying insurance and maintenance and
Yeah.
taxes and all that kind of stuff.
But I mean, I don't have a problem with paying for the painting out of this money.
Yeah, we haven't had
I have a problem with giving them this money back.
That's why I
We
said
got on a month for
50-50.
years.
Something they didn't do.
I was just saying, if you don't give it all back, I have something I got to do anyway with that particular building, but you certainly could let it have it all. I've had boards do both.
Yeah, Mr. Colley, have you set aside money already to do the things that you want to do in there, the painting? Is that in our budget?
I don't know if the total amount's in our budget. I'd have to go back and research that. We've been planning to paint it for a while based on them, getting the lease done, and because we got some construction work we've got to do in there if we ever get the new lease done to divide up the dental clinic and the health department. So we've been holding off for a number of years, and now it's gotten really desperate and we need to do it. I know they got a price. I don't know exactly. That would be a Mr. Schiebel question, is how much he budgeted in that.
It's our responsibility.
It is.
Normally, we've given money back to the entities that save money.
That is correct.
And bring it back, so I don't see why we would treat them any differently. And if it's our responsibility to paint it, then I don't think this should have an effect upon what we do. And since it is one-time money that they can buy
They can do something.
with
Right,
a deposit for the county, I don't think that should be a factor. That's just
In my opinion, having experience with this, as I just explained with what they did before, I would need to know what they want to do with this money before I gave it back to them. If indeed they want to buy flu shots or something that's going to benefit the county, fine. But I don't necessarily want to just say, here's money you didn't spend because you didn't hire somebody.
Well, then can we table and have someone come back and have a discussion about what it's going to be used for? And
And we'll invite
Yeah,
them to help the
certainly
record.
if you'd like to make that.
And can we also get the matching funds as far as how much, when we give the dollar, what the matching funds are from the state as well? Yeah, I mean, right, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Mr. Underwood, you want to make the motion to table?
just when I asked, they don't buy food in bulk. Maybe this would be an opportunity for them to buy food in bulk.
No, this is,
That's
that's
all right,
This is
never
the
mind.
health department,
Not
not
social
social services.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we table this agenda item 8, request for the Rappahannock Area Health Department to retain the year-end funds for fiscal year 2018 until our next meeting in January. And at that time, I hope we can have someone from the health department come and have a discussion.
Can I add just so we can have him here? So
Okay.
maybe the next meeting will be when he agrees to come.
Yeah, in that case, I'll second
Then
that.
I'll amend the motion to table until they can come
Okay.
before the board and do a presentation.
I'll second that.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. All right. Number 9.
Alan, you should have spoke up. We could have done 9 after 11, and we could have gotten everybody out of here sooner.
Well, we can still go quickly. Madam,
Just give us the bottom line of what the
Bottom line
increase
is, we need an increase for the upcoming plan year. We've managed to avoid that fate for several years in a row, but our claims experience this year does not support that. Our consultant, One Digital, Mary Jones with One Digital, is recommending that we increase health insurance rates or contributions by 9.3% and 11.5% for dental. As I said, it's largely driven by the amount of large claimants that we've had. We've had 19 that exceeded 25,000 and 5 that exceeded the stop loss of 100,000. Is that correct? And so if in the event that the board is willing to keep the same employer-employee contribution percentages, we're talking an additional $214,000 on the medical side for the county during the next plan year, and then another, is it 5,000, 10,000 for the dental renewal. Again, that assumes that we keep the plans the same and the contributions the county makes the same as well. It will impact the employees as well, about 39,000 for the medical side of things, and approximately 2,300, if I remember correctly, on dental. 3,200.
39,000 is the total employee impact.
Spread out amongst, yes, all the employees. Then keep in mind, this is an estimate based on our current enrollment. We never know from year to year exactly what we're going to have. But
400 employees?
How many subscribers?
Today, with just the county, we have about 220, but we're also taking out the detention center
right.
and the town of Bowling.
Well, the jail's another...
It's about another 115.
So it's not quite 400.
Right.
You said 40,000. So that's $100 per employee, right? Mm-hmm. So
depending on the plan and depending on the tier coverage. Yeah.
I mean, on average.
Right.
You know, somebody single, it might be zero. Somebody with 4 kids, it might be $200.
I don't think it's zero for anybody, but yes.
I mean, just to make the numbers match up.
Right.
So basically, this means every employee will lose money next year because of insurance costs.
I mean, I think
Well,
that
I guess you could say that, but also as someone who's had to buy private health insurance before, I'll gladly pay a 10% increase, because if you have to buy it out on the open market, it's really high.
But that's not really a fair analogy, because we're talking about a pool of employees who are
Right.
working currently on the county.
Right.
So it's not like
Right.
any single private person. But
And we talked about increasing last year and decided to hold
part
off.
of the nature of the beast.
But that's what I've been saying since last year when we talked about schools. When this increase goes in, we're basically having a pay cut for the employee.
unless there's an offsetting, like with the schools last year, with not all employees, but
Well,
unless there was an offsetting pay raise.
We
I mean,
thought there was an offsetting pay raise.
For some,
Yeah.
for some employees that they got a pay decrease. For some of the
Right.
school employees, for others, it was depending on what your plan was. Yes.
All right, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. Did we look at any other insurance providers? Well, we're self-insured, so we are the insurance provider.
Correct.
Yes.
We couldn't look at anybody else to manage it.
And that has worked out quite well for us.
Yeah. But I mean, I try to be consistent. If I tell somebody they should do something, I need to make sure we did it too.
Right.
Okay.
Happens to all of us. Madam Chair, based on what I've seen as increases across the country, this is really, I understand what Mr. Thomas is saying, but it's a modest increase in terms of insurance. And I realize it's based on the group, and we're all, everybody in it's in the group. So I'd make a motion to accept the recommendations of our consultant for the health and dental increases.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Discussion?
Yeah.
You can go first.
I just had a question, Mr. Parton. On the 2 columns that you provided for us, I can't connect to the internet right now, I'm having an issue, but on the 2 columns that you provide us in the packet,
Yes.
is that I see, like, there's like, is that a basic insurance, and then like the second column is a kind of an enhanced insurance?
Second column is the PPO. First column is your appointed service plan.
Is dental included in these?
What's that?
Is the dental part of these two columns?
This is just medical.
That's
This is
just medical.
So we didn't get something for the dental then? I mean, we just got a percentage in our packet for the
Right.
dental, but we didn't get any sort of chart on what are the employee
The
costs.
dental is a very small percentage of the overall cost.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the dental is comparable to what you see in the marketplace, quite frankly, with, you know, a max benefit of. at
Can you
least
speak
50.
into the microphone, please? I can't.
Nope. It's a pretty comparable benefit that you see in the marketplace with most employers. It basically drives a maximum benefit per covered individual of $1,500. So that's the max benefit that anybody can get out of the dental.
Just out of curiosity on like an employee only, I mean, because I didn't see it in here, I just saw a percent of going up. What is the, for an employee only, what is the cost of, what is the contribution right now that they're taking out for dental?
Oh, I don't know, I have that. I do not have that. at my
Is there
fingertips.
a general estimation?
I'm trying to think. I think I'm paying 20 a month additional for dental.
So like if you say 10%, then you're talking like on dental, it's like
$22.
$2. All right.
$22.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's all, it was just a point of clarification for me. I just didn't see the dental in there, that's all. All right, thank you.
Now you said the dental insurance was comparable.
Comparable to what we see most employers offering.
Most government employees.
Yes.
Okay, because that's not comparable for private at all.
Yeah, I mean, dental is pretty vanilla, quite honestly. It's pretty comparable in both the public and private sector. The medical is where we see a more significant difference.
Okay. Well, I've got a little bit of personal experience that says it's a little bit different. Because a crown costs $1,000 nowadays. So, you know, one shot and you're done with dental. So it's not really comparable, and we don't have the opportunity to upgrade to a higher version of dental plan like we do on the medical side.
We
Right.
could. I mean, you certainly can increase the out-of-pocket max benefit per covered individual. But what we need to look at is weigh out the pros and cons, because it's also going to drive a higher premium to do that. And at some point, you get to a tipping point that
Right.
it doesn't make sense.
I mean, you got to kind of balance it, but
Right.
but my point is, I actually know that $1,500 out of pocket is not too good with a private dentist, and based on what private industry pays for dental. But it may be great for government, so that's another story. So, okay.
All right, I have a
Madam Chair,
motion and a second.
Well, my other discussion was we will be able during budget time to discuss what this impact does to employees, right?
It's money, so, yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure of that. Okay.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr.
If I don't
White.
mind, Ms. Taylor is here, and for the number 6, agenda item number 6, if we could go back to
Alrighty.
that.
We're going to slip back to 6, gentlemen. Feel like I'm playing ping pong. This is a request for use of county property for an EMS law enforcement officer memorial. Good evening.
Good evening, folks.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me and having us on the agenda for tonight. Starting in August, I started talking to Jeff Black about the possibility of starting this memorial for the EMS and the fire department and the police department, because I know that Caroline does not have a current memorial for this. And I have my reasons behind it. Aside from the fact that my son has been in the EMT program and my husband's a police officer up at Quantico, I have a lot of friends that are in the fire and police industry across many states. And I just, there's different things that kind of brought this about, but at the end of the day, I just think it would be something that's very good for the county. You guys all have the proposal in your packages. And I made this simple diagram just to show what it would look like. I have a couple different samples, and I've talked to different vendors across different locations. Right now, I'm looking at a location in Utah for the rock, and a couple different other locations for different pieces to the whole overall project. And I have a cost analysis of what I've researched the project to cost, and I mean, there's some, gray area as far as what it would cost if we wanted to make it a little bit bigger as far as the circumference of it. And we wanted to possibly do some pavers for different people that might donate, or different people who we want to honor, but mostly it's meant to honor the police and fire department and the EMTs who have passed in the line of duty. That's the criteria. I've already spoken to the fire chief about what we would do in order to create this criteria, and he would help me come up with that. But mainly what we're doing right now is asking for the land use, because unless we have somebody to donate the land, what we really need is a location to put this.
Do you have an idea? It's hard to tell from a circle. How big a circle?
Right now I have it at like 30 feet. I think the fire chief had said that he thought that was a good size, but we can change that depending on how much area that we were provided.
So you would be comfortable with wherever the county said, working with whatever space they felt was appropriate for the area to make it look right?
I don't think there's any, issue with where it was located, as long as it would be someplace where people can, come and spend some time to be able to enjoy the whole area, and that it's easily seen from hopefully the main street in Bowling Green.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Black.
You've got in your cost estimates about $12,000, 11.7, in the top right corner?
Correct. That's what I have right now, with the best research I've done so far.
So I just want to get a general ballpark. That's kind of your number, and you have a paver walk that's included there. And we could do like we did for the kids in the Korean War Monument, is sell blocks to kind of...
For a fundraiser,
yes. Do as a fundraiser. All right, I'm just trying to give you an idea, and then I think we're going to talk about the location.
The pavers that I did the cost for is basically what Lowe's had available, so I don't know of any specific location that does any pavers with the names in it. I have not gone that far because I didn't... basically what's going to happen is if we do get approval for this, I want to get like a committee with the sheriff's department and with the fire department and the EMTs, and see if other people in those career fields could have some ideas as far as what they might want to see on the monument, because at the end of the day I can't be the one that decides on everything.
Well, trust us, if we do this, we're going to go to Lowe's and ask them to partner with us to help with the bricks. So.
Well, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Can we just have staff, I guess, can we have staff look for a couple locations and come back to us about where? Because, to make a decision tonight would be kind of hard, but look around at where the possibilities are. Bowling Green's going to be tough because we don't really own any of the land on Main Street. The court does. I have to remind people that the county doesn't really own the courthouse lawn. The judge does.
Right.
So that would be a tough one. We do have a couple of parks in the county, and I think it would be worth looking at. Some are more, they're all accessible. Some have more visual appeal than others. And I think you're looking for sort of a visual appeal when you're doing this, which I agree with. So I think we need to look at that sort of criteria first and go from there. That's just my thoughts.
Could we not motion something to the effect that we would would support the idea
That's-
of it being
Yeah,
that's
on
exactly what I was
absolute
saying.
location and size to be determined.
Correct.
Think the real action is to say we agree with this concept, it's a great idea, and the county will look forward to finding a location to make sure your idea becomes a reality.
Just a couple of things. I mean, the $12,000. I mean, I think this is going to, since it's going to be a memorial to people that are employees or have worked with the county. I do believe that it would be wise if we put in a financial contribution ourselves, just in good faith to them. I mean, that's my opinion. Yes, considerable financial, because this is going to be for employees of Caroline County.
I don't disagree with that. I just think it's too early in the stage to talk price until we have design and figures, so we know what to do.
Mr. Culley's got.
Mr. Culley has the floor.
Being the one that would be charged with maintaining this county piece of property, I would think we would need to be involved and to make sure that it's constructed in such a way that it's not a maintenance issue, especially if we're going to be putting money in. Maybe we look at a situation where they fundraise, we build the project to the design, but we handle through Public Works its construction and design. Because things like this, and no bad intent, can kind of go off the rails down the road, and then it's the Public Works guys, which I don't have a whole lot of, that then if we build something, it's a maintenance headache. So we'd like to make sure we build something, number one, that honors the people we're trying to honor, but also does that in such a way that
Has a minimum amount of maintenance.
yeah, we don't put a burden on our other staff that, they got a weed problem and it doesn't look right unless we're right there doing stuff. So I think we need some. Yeah, I think Joey's got to be involved in this as we go through the property. If we're going to be putting money in it, let's do it right.
Right. Mr. Forehand.
You mentioned that line of duty deaths. How many are we, as of right now, how many are we looking at?
I believe the fire chief told me 3 or 4. I'm not sure on that number.
I've attended 2 meetings with the group, and I think, Ms. Taylor, they came to a conclusion that it would be a generic memorial, that we wouldn't put specific names on the memorial.
Just the plaque.
Right, just a plaque, and for those that have fallen in the line of duty, both police and fire, not really get down into the names.
Okay.
I can tell you that in my time here in Caroline, we've had 1 line of duty firefighter, Tony Parker in Upper Caroline, passed to cancer. So. And in Virginia, the state police investigate all line of duty deaths, make a determination themselves as to whether that's line of duty or not. It's not up to the locality to make that decision. Not anymore.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Black.
I could say that I appreciate Ms. Taylor actually taking this project on. And I do want to kind of talk about the whole genesis of this project. As you know, probably a couple of years ago, because we attended a funeral, we had a firefighter that passed away in a car accident. Now, that wasn't line of duty. But as chairman at that time, I had to present a folded flag to the family. And then in this past year, I got a call. I was with my family in Florida, and I got a call. There was a volunteer firefighter that Ms. Taylor and I were both very close with. Great kid, wonderful kid. Always saw him at the fair, everything. He had volunteered at Port Royal, Frog Level, Ladysmith, and he passed away over the summer. And that was a hard phone call to take. And I appreciate you were at that funeral as well. A great young man. Also not necessarily in the line of duty, but that kind of hit us hard. And it's after thinking about it, we're like, we don't have something for the employees here in Caroline County who have given so much. And so the idea is to kind of have something we can kind of work out the details, but have something for those people who have sacrificed for our county. And so where everyone can kind of gather around. And I think the thought process was on, Chief Loftus had mentioned on September 11th. That seems to be kind of a day every year where, obviously the September 11th attacks, a lot of fire and rescue personnel were killed in those attacks, and it seems to be kind of a day that everyone kind of mourns for the loss of fire and rescue. So we were kind of thinking on the September 11th attacks, that would be to memorialize. That could be a day where everyone kind of comes together in remembrance, and we thought that was a really good idea. So I do want to thank Ms. Taylor for coming up with this. This is a great idea. I mean, it's a wonderful, and everyone on the committee that has put in some ideas. It's been great to work with, and we really appreciate it. So I do suggest that we go forward. We can talk about kind of the details.
Mr. Seeley.
I was going to say, I thought he was going to make a motion to.
Well, I was just going to add one other comment. I think on the committee, I would suggest we do have Mr. Sheeble or someone from Public Works also on the committee. And will this design be for both volunteer and professional, or is it going to be just for those that serve, or just for those that we lose in the line of duty?
I believe that we need to work on that criteria, mainly for the plaque. That's going to be people who have died in the line of duty. And like the pavers themselves, like I was told that there was an individual who was a dispatcher for 30 years. Even though she didn't pass the line of duty, she still should be honored because of her service. Mm-hmm. So that's why we had that possibility of putting names on bricks of people who still we want to remember because of their service.
Okay, well, we will get the committee and support you as far as finding you a land location. And we just ask that we get someone for the county to attend those meetings also. And thank you for taking this
I'm not sure
forward.
if the sheriff wanted to say something too.
He's on the agenda. We're going to get to him too, but go ahead on this too.
But again, I want to thank Mrs. Taylor, and we will be a part of that. And again, the fact of putting a monument, especially for 9/11, for police, fire, and rescue in general. And when we spoke, that's where, total support for that. You'd have to set up so much criteria for all the others, and plaques and stuff would be different. And it might be difficult in one way. So, but we will be a part of it. Just wanted to let her know that and support the idea.
Great, thank you. All right, motion, Mr. Black. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll just,
Do we need a motion, just general consensus? We're going to go ahead and look for a location.
I think consensus is and support.
All righty, we will look forward to getting back to you with the location and getting reports on how your committee's coming along.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Can we go to closed session now?
Hold on, wait a minute. We have, we still got we've got 10 and 12 to do. Do you want to do those?
12's pretty easy, we can just go yes.
Well, so moved.
Second.
Hold on. No, you can't do that. I know it's my last meeting, but no. All right, we still have 10. Do you want to do 10?
12.
12. You want to do 12?
We have a motion and a second on the floor for 12.
We have a motion and a second on it. I make a motion that we approve the compensation for the Building Code Appeals, for members of the Board of Building Code Appeals. Mr. Seeley, second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Okay.
All right.
Can we go to closed
Now we
session?
can go to closed session.
All right, we'll have to come back and hit 10 then.
That's all right. 10's going to
All right.
be easy. It's a consensus thing.
I need a piece of paper.
Mr. Whiteman, are you going to be around? Okay, you're not. I just got to catch up with you about something.
Yes, sir.
All right, we've got 15 minutes before public comment. We have a quick closed session we need to do, so we will be...
Motion to convene closed session December 11, 2018. I move that this board convene in closed session pursuant to the prospective business exemption of Section 2.2-371185 of the Code of Virginia to discuss two potential economic development projects in the county about which no previous public announcement has been made.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Now you guys can go.
Madam Chair,
Motion to come out of closed session.
I make a motion to come out of closed session.
Second.
I need a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
You got to
Certify.
certify.
All right. Mr. Thomas.
I so certify.
Mr. Black.
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley.
Madam Chair, I so certify.
Mr. Underwood. I so certify. And I so certify. Mr. Underwood will certify when he returns. Mr.
Forehand.
Forehand will certify. Can I do it backwards? Okay. I was certification is for after the closed meeting that moved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors certifies that the best of each member's knowledge that only public business matters lawfully accepted from the open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in closed session to which the certification applies, and then only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board.
And I certified to that.
Mr. Thomas certifies to that. We did this backwards, guys. Mr. Black? Mr. Seeley?
So certified.
Mr. Underwood? I so certify. And when Mr. Forehand gets back, he will certify. Is that better? Sorry. At this time, if there's anyone out there that has a public comment on anything that is not a public hearing tonight, would like to come forward and speak, this is the time to do that. Do we have anyone that would like to make a comment on anything other than our public hearings listed tonight? Mr. Sheriff, how are you?
Madam Chair, doing well.
Good.
Four things I wanted to bring up. First and foremost, just to let everyone know about the Cops for Kids program that was held on December the 1st. And Major, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had at least 38 of our personnel there to shop with the kids. Want to put a thank you out to Pastor Telepaw and Wright Chapel for all that they did for the pancake breakfast. I want to commend our school transportation and the schools for allowing the bus drivers to take us down, and all of our volunteers. It was a great day for that. Another comment, Mr. Black, I heard you talk about, the board looking at the insurance for those of 30 years. I just want to echo that with you. It's not going to benefit me at all, but everyone like Scott Moser that was given a nice award up here is, I think, the only one from the Sheriff's Office that I know that has 30 years with the county. And I think that would be a great program. I know you all will look into it. Mr. Forehand mentioned something about how the county and people look at us towards some of the things that the county can display, and I'm going to like a public safety building. That's something I wanted to throw out to the board. I would hope that you guys would start looking at that as we get the monies to be able to do that. I just wanted to throw that out to you. And last but not least, Madam Chair, I know you will be at our award ceremony tomorrow at 6. So that's it.
I look forward to it. Thank
Thank
you, Sheriff Lippman. Any other public comments at this time? Hearing none, public comment is closed. We will move. First, I will ask Ms. Parton, would you see if you can find my other board member? Thank you. He may be locked out. Maybe he forgot his tag. Somebody kidnapped him. All right, Mr. Fitcham, carry on, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you can actually hold the next two public hearings jointly, since they are on the same property and the same section of the zoning ordinance.
All right.
It would just require separate motions for any action.
Can I have the motion to do these public hearings jointly?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We will do them jointly, sir.
Your next public hearing on the agenda is SPX 04-2018 and SPX 08-2018. Faith Investors Incorporated owner, Christina Lewis, applicant, doing business as C Auto Plus. The request is for a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, which is your standards for special use permits, and Article 10, Section 3.4 and 3.16 of the Caroline County zoning ordinance. The subject property, tax map 108-A-2, consists of approximately 1 acre more or less. The property is located at 31,426 Richmond Turnpike in the Milford, in the Reedy Church voting district. The proposed use is one, used auto sales facility, and secondly, a request for a major auto repair service operation. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates this area as being within a Dawn community plan and designated as planned development. The applicant is requesting for approval for 2 special exception permits in accordance with Article 10 of the Caroline County zoning ordinance. The facility is located at the corner of Baylor Road and Richmond Turnpike. The subject property was previously used for a tow service operation for which a special exception permit was issued, and also for a minor auto repair facility. The previous special exception is for the minor auto repair is still in place from the previous permit that was issued on the property. The applicant is also requesting a special exception permit for a major auto repair facility which would replace the minor auto repair in accordance with Article 10, Section 3.16. The major auto repair facility would operate in the same facilities that are already existing on the property, so there will be no change in facilities or anything like that. And the current conditions that are in place would be modified to include the major auto repair service. You have several attachments in your staff report, which include pictures of the subject property, the conditions of the current special exception permit that's in place. The comprehensive plan does designate this area as planned development, which allows for commercial and residential development in the Dawn area. Obviously, we are not talking about any residential as part of this application. VDH has reviewed the application and has noted that the existing sewage disposal system would need to be evaluated to determine whether the additional use would be supported by the current facility. That would be done as part of the site plan and building permit plan review for this site. VDOT noted that there were some site distance issues at the corner of Baylor Road and Richmond Turnpike. Staff met with the owners, applicants, and VDOT on site, and we came up with a modified entrance plan, which would include the identification of the installation of some breakaway identifiers that would define the entrance better than what exists at that location now. We believe that that was a relatively inexpensive solution to VDOT's concerns. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on this at the September 27th meeting, but deferred action to address some of the concerns that had been raised at the meeting. There was one abutting property owner who expressed some concerns about the property. That property owner actually abuts the rear side of this property. Her letter and concerns are included in the packet. Ultimately, the Planning Commission forwarded these 2 applications to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval for the conditions for the 2 special exceptions as outlined on page 3 of the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Fitcham. At this time, we will open the public hearing to comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and your voting district. If anyone would like to speak, come up this time. Is there anyone who would like to speak concerning either of these public hearings? Is there anyone that would like to speak? More time? Hearing none, this public hearing is closed. Comments?
Is the applicant here, and does he wish to say anything? or she, I'm sorry. Would you like to say anything?
Hi, my name is Christina Lewis. I am the owner of BNC Auto Sales. This is my father, Coleman R. Pottiger. He is the owner of Car Repair Plus. Together, we have two separate businesses, but run them together as one to have more of an opportunity to serve as a complete auto facility to the Dawn area. We would like to expand our minor repair to major to include working on engines and transmissions. These are the things that come to us more than anything else. So this would help us and help the community. And use auto sales. This gives us the opportunity to buy cars that need those engines and transmission repairs and to be able to fix them, to be able to sell, low-income cars that are great, running cars, to the community. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Any more discussion? Thank you very much. Any discussion? Any questions? Do I have a motion? Wait a minute, hold on. Yes, sir.
Mr. Fincham? She said something that's kind of sparked my curiosity, and is there a limit on or screening on non-operational vehicles on the property?
Your operational vehicles.
Non-operating vehicles. Again, my fear, and I'm not saying that this has happened here, I've just seen it other places, is that you get a deal on a used car, on a crashed car that needs a front end. Then you get another deal on the engine, and then 2 years later, there's 15 cars out back that all need work and are non-usable, and we end up having a problem. So that's short and sweet. That's my ultimate fear.
Mr.
Understood. Under condition number 4, the special exception, you could tweak that to say all inoperable vehicles on site must be in the process of being repaired and shall be stored, page 3 of the staff report. Under recommended conditions, the suggested conditions for SPEX 08-2018, I would add to the end of condition 4, and shall be screened from view, or within a fully enclosed area.
Mr. Fincham? Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Condition number 4.
Yeah.
After saying in the process of being repaired, I would put a comma there, and shall be stored, and shall be screened from view or contained in a fully enclosed area. There is an enclosed area there. For those of you who may remember, this was Woody's tow service operation. We had issues there over time. So there's a storage area that I think the intent was that the cars would be located there, but let's clarify that.
All right, that's fine. And I understand buying, next week I'm going to get that car, that's fine. If you want to put a 30 or 60 day window of time, I'm all right with that. I just didn't want it to be, 18 months.
Turn into another storage lot. Yes.
Then we start parting out, hey, I'm sitting over there, I got this one over here, and it just goes downhill from
Well,
there.
there is the condition on here that inoperable vehicles, it says that they cannot be stored on site or used for salvage, right? Number 3?
That's correct.
Okay.
They must be in the process of being repaired. Yeah, so we don't want it to turn into a salvage operation. That's not what the special exception permit's for. It's not for salvaging parts and selling them the vehicles there to be repaired and returned to usable conditions.
I just know a lot, we're generally very hopeful people. I hope to get to that one day.
Yes.
And we've all had projects around the house, and I hope to get to that one day. And then, that project could be a car, it could be a shed out back, or a horse for that matter. So, anyway, that's...
At that point, by our definition, it is an inoperable vehicle, and it's subject to our provisions of Chapter 77.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Black.
I just had a question because I had pulled off some stuff, and I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with this, but I just wanted to make sure some things were addressed. I mean, going back to what we were just talking about, how do you know, like, from how a vehicle is inoperable versus a vehicle is, inoperable and being repaired? I mean, when you drive by it, how do we? I understand what you're saying here, but how do we know that that's being?
If it's sitting there,
conditions being followed,
and obvious, like we drive by and we see a vehicle sitting there. If it's been there for more than X number of days, then it's an operable vehicle by definition. And certainly,
so I mean,
we'll conduct periodic inspections. We do that on most of our permits.
We do go around to, like, I mean, I'm not just picking on this, but I mean, just we go around and we make sure at some of these places that the same cars are not.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because that's an ongoing issue in the county.
I could imagine.
Inoperable vehicles.
Yes.
Yes.
I could imagine. Especially, I'm sure that they need to be, especially if they're not fenced in. All right. Yeah. Okay. The next question is, there was some concern, and in reading the minutes, there was concern about parking spaces for the Lou's, I guess, soul food or whatever. Has that been mitigated or taken care of?
Yes. That's actually on another portion of this property, but that has been addressed. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what about the issue of the ponding water?
That one's more difficult to address because there's nothing in the current regulations that allow us to upgrade the drainage system. So that's something that we can take a look at to see if we can identify what's contributing.
Where is it going when it's in the drainage system? Where is it?
It actually goes back behind this property onto it drains through the abutting property owner's property to the west of the site.
Ends up in a pond, ends up in a... We don't know.
Eventually works its way drainage-wise towards the
Thank you.
Pamunkey River.
There's no BMP around there or anything, is there?
No. Okay. No, there's no BMP, stormwater detention pond, or anything.
That's just the conduit, what's the word I'm looking for? What is it?
Contours.
The contours of the land. That's just how the land, because Route 301 is here and it flows that way. So I mean,
there's actually a pipe. There's actually a pipe that runs on the east side of this property, the property on the inside of Baylor and Richmond Turnpike.
Right.
There's a drainage pipe that goes underneath Baylor Road, and then there's another drainage pipe on the other side of the ditch that runs under this property onto the abutting property owner. So it's an existing drainage ditch.
Mm-hmm. The only reason why I was asking is because I was just looking through, read the minutes, and I was just looking at some of the comments, and, it sounds like the Lou's Soul Food issue has been addressed. I was just wanted to make sure on the ponding water, if there was something that could be done, just some of the stuff could be mitigated, so that way it wasn't a problem. So
we could take a look at that. We also actually have another development coming in across the street from this. Mm-hmm. So it's not big enough that it's going to require, stormwater detention or anything like that. But we can take a look at that to make sure that it doesn't exacerbate the issue.
Okay.
And see if we can identify a way to fix what's there.
Yeah, okay. 'Cause, the other thing, too, is the only property maintenance was a concern. Has there been any violations at all as far as any code violations that we've cited for property maintenance?
Not to the current owners.
Because that kind of piggybacks on yes. Okay.
Previous owners, we had issues.
So not under the current ownership?
That's correct.
And does it look better under the current ownership than it?
Yes.
Yes, much better. Okay, good. Okay, that's all. And then the last question I had is the tractor trailer issues. I think my planning commission had talked about those, about backing up and so forth. Or is there, he had a concern, but was there room to do that?
There is adequate room on site, and actually you have a large parking area, as you can see from the aerial photograph. You have the little strip center there where Lou's Soul Food and a little community store is located. Then you have these proposed uses in the buildings to the rear. So you have a large parking area there that can accommodate truck turnarounds. One of the initial options that was being looked at was directional flow of traffic. That would have been more difficult for tractor trailers to go in and use the southernmost entrance in front of this facility to turn into the property. So at the end of the day, the resolution was that more defined entrance near the corner of Lou's Soul Food to allow two means of ingress and egress to the site. With the large parking area, there's plenty of turnaround space.
Okay, so we can accommodate a tractor trailer plus some parking. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all I need. All right, thank you.
Any further questions or discussions? Do I have a motion on this issue?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve special exception 04-2018.
And, oh wait.
Well, you want to do one at a time?
Separate, okay.
Separate. Second.
All right, we have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve special exception 08-2018 with the wording regarding the conditions regarding
modification to conditions.
Modifications regarding the enclosure of vehicles within the property.
Second, and discussion?
Discussion.
That's the enclosed part is similar to what we do with all towing facilities and storage facilities. So it's not anything particular to this application. It's just consistent across the county.
Yes, sir. And in this case, the facility's already there.
Right. Okay. So that was my second. Thank you.
So we have a motion, we have a second. I'm sorry, who seconded? Lloyd seconded. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
At this time, thank you. Same to you. Mr. Forham, well, before we go on to the next thing, would you please certify? We already did, but you need to, from closed session.
I also certify that no other items discussed other than what was previously approved in closed session.
All right, so are we at unfinished business number 5? I'm so lost count. We've skipped all over. Number 5, gentlemen.
I don't know that we can answer this, Mr. Cully. Do you have a recommendation? I mean, this is the town's.
This is a MOU that Mr. Emerson has put together, so if you have any questions regarding that, we tried to cover the things that we had, which basically we can end it if we need to at any end of plan year, but if they withdraw and they're short, then they have to make up that shortfall because we're self-funded, self-insured plan, so they can't just get on and then next year find somewhere else they'd rather be. Somebody gives them a lower rate and then they pull out and owe us money. So,
Is that?
Where was that in the agreement?
I was trying to find it sort of too, because it's in lawyer language.
Because I've read through it. Number 4?
I thought that was just regular billing.
Yeah, that's 30
I was
days.
thinking it was 9, but I wasn't sure.
correct. Correct.
Okay. The town shall pay the county within 30 days after receiving an invoice any amount of deficit in claims, expense versus premium revenue received. That's what we're saying?
All obligations are subject to annual approval, neither the MOU.
Yeah, but that doesn't say that specifically.
Constitute a debt or pledge of faith credit. Number 4, is that right?
Yeah, the amount of any deficit in claims expense versus premium revenue received. Should the county decide to leave the plan on its own volition at any time.
Okay, so the 30 days is just pay it up for us, get it under the bill. Because sometimes it takes months to get medical bills in.
So that's specifically if the town decides to leave, they'll pay us any deficit. What if we ask the town to leave because they're costing us money?
Well, you would terminate it. You have the right to terminate at the end of any plan year so that you're not cutting them off in mid-year.
Well, that's the concern is from the consultant that was here and all the discussion before, if the town employees got to be a burden on the county could get out of the contract and the town would pay us. That doesn't specifically say that. What this specifically says is if the town decides to leave, based on your other statement, they found a better plan. What happens if because she said they could run up $100,000 per employee. So what if they what if 5 employees run up to $100,000? Do we then say, okay, have a nice day, but we're still liable for that $500,000?
The plan would be, so yeah, anyway, there isn't anything in here to address that situation.
So could we add that same type of language to number 8?
Mm-hmm.
And then take that from 60 to 45 days?
Yeah.
Or is that enough time?
I don't think they're going to be able to sign something where they're on the hook totally if they had.
Should the county take all the responsibility for another government's employees with no protection?
No, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying that's such an unknown. We have reinsurance that covers us, basically stop loss at $100,000. Obviously, the county nor the employee pay $100,000 per employee. It's the group. The healthy people are paying in all year long with the county, and then we have a few sick folks and that type of thing. They've got so few people. If they had even one hit 100,000, they don't have enough people paying in to cover that. The plan's going to have to make it back up. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's I think that was the genesis of our discussions at the time. We're all for trying to help out another government entity, but can I afford to take the risk for our government? And that's really the question. We're saying, I'd be happy to help you guys. You get a better rate by being on our plan. But what if one of your employees runs up to $100,000?
The rest of the 4 or 5 they would have are never going to pay in enough in premiums to cover that.
Yeah, because
the healthy people in our plan would be having to be the ones that cover that. So I don't know that they'll ever sign an MOU that they would, we're kicking them off and they're going to have to pay up what they've cost us, because that could be way more than the town budget would ever have. I mean, you follow what I'm saying? I think they would have to turn that down. So you might as well just tell them no.
So four is the only protection the county has. If they find a cheaper plan, they can leave and they'll pay us whatever they owe us.
Correct. But if we want to kick them off.
But if their employees cost us a lot of money, we're just basically stuck with that cost.
For the
Well,
1 year.
the one thing is that we can cut them off after that 1 year. It'll only be 1 year of exposure. We weren't clear when we were putting this together whether the board's intent was to hold them accountable if we decided after 1 year's experience that so your protection is you would be able to eliminate them after the one plan year.
I
I mean, and again, I'm all for trying to help them out. I just thought there was some way we could limit the county's exposure, and I thought that's what we were doing. But it appears that's not what we're doing.
If they're home for 1 year, you can't protect yourself if something happens.
Yeah.
Only to the end of the term. Is that right?
Correct.
And
I mean, you understand it. There's no way that they could even sign up for that. They got 5 or 6 employees. They can't predict whether they're going to have a spouse or somebody.
Well, their whole
have a
budget is like
catastrophe.
$80,000.
Right. So they would never be able to guarantee you, all right, we'll make you whole if we caught you. They couldn't do it. So, I mean,
Because they're buying insurance, whereas
Right.
our policy is.
you're taking them on and absorbing them into the 200, 350, 400 employees. So you're taking their 5, 6 with spouses, whatever they've got. I don't know what their census number is. But their small amount, and you're dumping them in our larger amount and hope that the overall plan stays stable.
Yeah, we did pick up a couple, 100 and some
I'm adding those in from the detention facility.
detention center who should be fairly healthy and
But you
in
can't-
good
you
shape.
can't-
But
It's spouses,
that
you
just
can't
makes our
guarantee
pool
that.
a little,
But that's what the consultant said. You know, the consultant said she would take the detention center people.
3 months later, and then she quit the next, after that.
No, just,
Our rates skyrocketed the next year for
Well,
3 or
we
4
can't take
years
them
until we worked out
agree on the MOU.
a couple of $100,000.
The town can't cover that.
$100,000 in retention, this would be a non-issue, we'd be buying insurance.
Right. Yeah, we have a reinsurance that covers if it's, the stop loss basically for us at 100,000. But we could have 2 or 3 of them run that up and really hurt us. But we have no enough.
Per claim or $100,000?
Cumulative. It's 100,000 cumulative now. We did. We had 5. We had 5 employee spouses. I don't know which, but we had 5 that hit 100 this year, right at it.
So it's per claim.
So for me, Madam Chair, for me, I think it's the issue of whether we want to, in good faith, try to help out this government entity and be a good partner, or do we want them to kind of fend for themselves?
Which is what they've been doing.
Knowing that they could incur some extremely high costs should something happen to one of their employees. So I think that's what we have to decide. I don't think there's a right answer because we don't know what the future holds.
no,
But chances are we may incur some additional costs to ourselves and to our employees.
question, this is just their employees, not their council.
I believe that's correct.
It's just for their paid employees, correct?
That's correct, and their dependents,
It's not
Okay.
council. It's not council.
not to my knowledge. I can't say for sure.
I don't think so.
I think I would want to know that it is a smaller number. Town of Port Royal doesn't provide insurance, so I was just curious.
It's not, council's not in this.
I think we do need to decide whether we're going to go forward or not, though, because their plan runs out in February ahead of ours running out anyway, so that if we're not going to do this, I think, or we're going to put that, more restriction in, we need to get that to them sooner rather than later.
Well, of course, we're not voting on the MOU itself. This is a draft that we could send to them and get their input, along with a letter that's saying we have not voted to accept it yet. See what they say. They may not want to take it. It may be too iffy for them.
They're going to want to take it. They're anxious about insurance. They talked about it at their board meeting last Thursday. I was there. They're anxious to get this resolved.
You could approve it in whatever, you can make changes to it if you want, but you could approve it and send it to them and say, the Caroline Board has approved this. If you want to approve it, it'll be a done thing. If you've got comments, then we'll have to take it up at the next meeting.
Correct.
That would be a way to get it done potentially in
Mr. Seeley,
December.
you've been on Bowling Green Town Council. What have they done in the past for insurance?
Susan was on town council, I wasn't,
Okay.
but she did, council members don't get insurance. This is for their employees only.
So their employees haven't had any insurance?
They have insurance, but there's only 5 employees on insurance. Well, I think they're counting dependents. Because I don't think they have 11, they may have 11 employees, but I don't think all of them take it. But it's a low number, it's a set less than 10. They've got issues of getting insurance, because any small group has
Right.
issues with that.
Which I certainly understand. I just wish there was some way that if there was a certain amount that they could help.
That's their dilemma, that's been their high rate dilemma.
So you're taking the risk that there won't be more than one a year? Yeah.
No, one doesn't hurt us nearly as much as,
So, of course, they could also,
Their rates would be the same as ours, what they contribute, whether they may make the employee pay more over there than the county does, but their plan rate will be the same.
Madam Chair, I think I agree with Mr. Cully. Maybe, and our attorney, maybe we should send it to them if we read it and we agree. It may be worth a good faith 1 year shot, but I think we should revisit it.
it's 1 year right now.
Right, I'm saying, but we have
to be
to,
1 year.
but we have to revisit it to make sure, because at any given year, we could take, it's a matter to me of being a good neighbor and trying to help, but the good Samaritan usually always gets screwed in the end. So that's my concern.
I think we need to keep an eye on things. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea. We send it over to them, and we definitely go just for a year and see how it's going.
Do we need a motion I'll make a motion, we send the agreement as presented to Bowling Green Town Council with our approval awaiting their signature.
Second.
Have a motion, a second discussion.
No change to the protection for the county?
I think they feel like this is the
I asked
tightest
if there
we
was
can
no
do
change
it.
to the protection for the county?
What
She
else
said-
can we put in there?
She said the motion was to send it over as it is. And my question was, is there no change in what the protection was for the county? I know the answer to my
What would
question.
how would you want to word such a thing that if claims reach a certain amount, they pay us monthly a certain amount back toward that? I'm just not sure how legally you could do that. I think the only thing we could do is reevaluate it at the end of the year. Do you have any?
We don't have to take them for a year. I mean, can it be 6 months?
I mean, you could probably add the provision that if you've got to do it for a year because otherwise you're going to leave them without insurance in the middle of the year.
Okay. Again,
I mean, you could add the type of language that's in 4 to 9, so that, or whatever the other provision is, but so that if the county terminates them and there's a shortfall, then they owe you, they have to pay you the shortfall. Mr. Cully didn't think that they would agree to that because of the math, because of the dollars. But I mean, we could put that in there if you want us to do that. I'm not sure how you would.
Can you come here?
Madam Chair, I have a motion. I'd like to call a question at this point, because we're going to try to wordsmith something now that I'm not sure is going to be legal in the end of this.
May I ask Mr. Emerson if he could give me advice in a quick second? Mr. Emerson, can you come over here, please?
Bear with me just a moment, Mr. Seeley. But it's,
Okay. Mr. Cully, you were saying that they wouldn't be able to afford to make a payment if there was some issue where the county was exposed for quite a substantial amount of money. Maybe we could make it say in-kind contribution or something like that.
That's certainly fine with me. I was just saying if you try to make it whole and we have hit that 100,000, if you figure their employees times, if they all took family, it's 15,000 paid in, per you're trying to do the math of what's already been paid to us and what would be the shortfall. Plus, a lot of people go to the doctor, so everybody has some claims. They just don't have big ones. They usually don't.
And again, my point is, I would like to help the town, even though it's a private, it's a different government. I would like to help them and their employees, but our responsibility is to protect the county. So, if we ask for some sort of in-kind contribution to offset whatever exposure the county has, I think that's only fair.
Does in-kind mean voluntary?
No, it would just mean goods or services as opposed to cash.
Or could we cap it at up to X number of thousands of dollars, like up to $10,000 towards that? Say they have a.
I think Mr. Emerson is aware of in-kind and how in-kind would work for us as the county. If that were the case. Now, we would all hope that they have healthy lives for years and years to come. But again, our job is to limit the exposure to the county on an issue like this. So if we ask them for some sort of in-kind contribution to offset the county's expenses, I think that would be a benefit to the county and would limit our liability.
I still don't understand the definition of in-kind then.
Mr. Emerson, would you suggest that we explain that to the board, or you whisper in Mr. Seeley's ear to make sure he understands?
No, I think in kind would be, you could define it in the agreement, but it would be, they would, if you had a $100,000 deficit and you terminated the plan, and they would then, under the way, if we wrote this the way the other provision about them leaving of their own free will, we write it the same way or the same concept, then they would owe the county that $100,000 deficit when the county terminated their membership in the plan. And so what I believe Mr. Thomas is saying is that if they didn't have the cash, they could pay the county with an in-kind contribution of some sort, which would be the providing of some sort of goods or services or whatever other assets they might have. If that's, they may not have any, but it would just give them an option to do something other than cash.
My only question on this is, how has this happened before? Do we have any other, where we have small towns in the state of Virginia? Did we do any research on, does this, we have a, what's that?
They were on this plan before.
Bowling Green was on our plan before. And they chose to leave. Now they want to come back.
They were on with the jail, and the jail is gone prior to this.
So they were with the authority.
They were with the authority. Madam Chair, I have a motion on the table. I'd like to proceed with the motion in the second. I call a question.
Would Mr. Seeley accept a friendly motion?
No.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. I may as well start at the end and work up, but I'll try it All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
Nay.
Black?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood? Mr. Forehand? And I'll say aye. For 1 year
1 year. Correct.
for review. That takes us down to number 10. You've been sitting here all evening for it.
And Madam Chair, I just have a comment about this. I'd like to check with General Assembly members. I mean, for me, this is just information. We can't really vote on this until we get some data from somebody in the General Assembly that would potentially carry this. And my initial foray into this is we were so small, they're not sure that this is going to fly. And I just haven't had a chance to dig down into this any further.
What, for changing the...
You've got to get at it, and it's
Because the code of
difficult.
Virginia?
It's difficult. So I would like to table this until we figure out if somebody will even do it.
Should we listen to Mr. Fincham that he has since he's up there? We're talking about 10.
I thought we were here because the sheriff said we needed General Assembly help. Wasn't that what you said originally, Sheriff? In order for you to be able to move forward?
Yes, I suggested we go before the General Assembly to add Caroline in
Speaker,
there.
speaker. Even I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I asked for this back before February, that we should have been seeking General Assembly's help to be put on those two code sections. Hanover is not even big enough, and yet they're on there. So I think if we talk to our delegates and our senators, I don't see why they would be opposed to it if we choose to do it.
All right, so we need a motion to forward it to the delegate.
I'm gonna say I want to do some research before I'm voting on it, because I want to make sure somebody's willing to take it.
Well, isn't that what we have to do is say, let's go ahead and see if our delegates will run with it?
Do it any way you want. I'm just saying I'd rather talk to them
The
personally.
problem is you're running out of time, because you'd have to wait another whole year.
And I believe Mr. Seeley was the one who requested this when we originally talked about it 6 months ago. Wasn't that right, Sheriff?
I've been dealing with this for many, many years. And it was a suggestion that I made that would make it a whole lot easier to take care of the problems that Belmont has posed before the board and the sheriff's office. And that code section is the step in the right direction. If our delegates and senators do not do it, then we have to wait another year.
But there is already, and according, refresh my memory, but I think on some things I'm pretty good. There is already an ordinance which includes other localities.
That is correct.
And what you said 6 or 8 months ago when we were trying to do this was, we think, or you said it's a good idea if we go to the General Assembly and just add Caroline to this particular statute that exists already.
Correct.
And I believe at that time, all of the board members said, that's a good idea, let's go ahead and do it. So if we all said it was a good idea 6 months ago, now that it's time for the General Assembly, I don't know how it got to not be a good idea.
I think we just need a motion to have staff move forward with a letter to our delegates.
So moved, Madam Chairman, if that's the case. I'll make the motion to move forward. Mr. Seeley can do his research as he wishes.
But you gotta have permit, we gotta have the okay to do it, so. We have a motion to move forward with contacting delegates, ask them to carry this, see if they'll carry it forward. Do I have a second?
Sheriff, you said you think we should move forward with this?
I feel if you want to enforce those provisions on the public highway, then you're going to need that.
We're still
I'll second it. Just put it on the floor.
So I have a motion and a second to forward this on to delegates see if they'll go ahead and okay us on to this.
And we get to apply it, he made the second, we get to apply it to just the subdivision in Belmont as we choose, right?
No, I think you'll have to adopt it for the whole county, and I think that's what Mr. Seeley's, as we had talked about that, that's what's good for that community would be for the entire Caroline
But it's still
County.
basically parking regulations on the entire county.
It would be, Mr. Thomas, and if they allow this, then we're going to have to come back for our parking provisions and revamp all of that so that we're able to use citations and also uniform summons. So you'll see a big, which you will have to have a public hearing on.
So you have to do this.
We'd have to have a public hearing before we accepted it anyhow.
What is the first?
You
Yeah.
wouldn't have time. By the time you get to public hearing, you wouldn't have time.
No, it has to go to them first.
The issue right now is you don't have the authority to do anything under the state
Right.
code because it did the Dillon rule. And so what the sheriff and y'all are talking about is getting that authority to do something should you decide then to do it. But you would have to adopt whatever you were going to do by ordinance
we'd have to
once you
change
have
our
the authority to do it. So you'd have to go through that process.
See, this is kind of like the, the amendment that was on the ballot. We're basically asking the state for permission to do this. We don't actually have to do it after we get the state's permission, but we'll never be able to do it without the state's permission.
Correct.
And when we do the ordinance in the county, we at that time can be as liberal or as conservative with the definition as we want.
I think so. It probably depends on how that statute's written, but, but yeah.
So we're really just asking the state for the authority.
But we're not approving.
But we're not approving anything, but we'll never be able to do anything. We have 3 more times to say no, but we'll never be able to get past anything unless we get to the General Assembly to give us permission. Right?
Right.
Okay.
And if you were trying to do that, it would probably be useful to send your delegates some language to consider so they don't have to try to write it.
Which I think we're just adding ourselves to an existing ordinance.
Correct.
Oh, okay, to the statute. There's a statute that exists.
Statute exists already.
Okay, okay, fine. Then forget what I just said. You just want to be added to the list. Yeah, that's right. No, that works.
But we have the authority once we do the resolution or do our own ordinance.
Yeah, but ordinance has to be countywide, not one particular subdivision. It's got to be countywide.
Our ordinances are more restrictive. You could make it per subdivision or something of that nature. We've done those things before.
You can't make, this is going to apply to the whole county, not one subdivision.
This permission we get from the General Assembly will apply to the whole county. You're right in that point. However, the county creates an ordinance which can be as restrictive
You can't create this for one subdivision. You cannot do that.
The county can have an ordinance for
Mr.
parking
Emerson,
in subdivision.
Can we make this for one subdivision if we have county ordinance?
Mike,
I mean, it's not a fair question sitting here right now.
What's this May?
Mr. Emerson, the 2 code sections in question are at the end of Section 10, the last 2 pages of, so it would be the first paragraph of each one of those sections.
It's just a long statute to read and give you a...
But it's unfair to ask him to do that now. But the fact that we don't have permission, all we're doing is asking the General Assembly. We can say if you get Mr. Emerson and he comes back 2 weeks later or day after Christmas and says, I think it's the whole county, then we say, oh, no, we're not going to do it. But we'll never get past anything, and this is what the entire board said they wanted to do 6 months ago. So I'm not sure how the board has all of a sudden as a whole changed their mind and not do it.
I just want to make sure if we take it to the delegates, we're going to pass, that we still can work on the ordinance and make changes.
If we take it to the delegates.
And then says we can.
Right. If we take it to the delegates, we have that chance to modify it or to not do it at all. Right?
Right.
Can I call a question, Madam Chair?
You may call a question. We have a motion and a second. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
So moved. All right.
What was the
You,
vote?
what-
You want
you need to do a roll call.
Aye.
Mr. Black? Mr. Sealy?
Nay.
Mr. Underwood? Aye. Mr. Forehand? And I say aye.
How do you abstain?
So, Madam Chair, as the chair, I take it you'll move that
Motion
to our
made.
delegate?
Yes, I will contact.
Thank you.
Get a letter together and send it out. That takes us, if we missed anything, we've jumped all over so much. I think we got it all. Capital updates?
We include the capital project update. There hadn't been much change in that. There's also the Fred report in there, and you will see that ridership is down.
Where's that?
They got the best float in the parade.
No, we try. Budget season's coming. All right.
And for December on the calendar, we've mentioned again, employee luncheon tomorrow, Bowling Green Town Hall. And Mr. Forehand's moving community meeting at 6. Location to be determined. Oh, good. It's
Lady
at the-
Smith Library,
it's at
6 p.m.
6 p.m. at the library. Wonderful.
And I will be here with the sheriff and all his staff at 6 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, the Sheriff's Awards banquet tomorrow, ceremony tomorrow. The 18th is Mr. Thomas' community meeting in the EOC. We obviously are closed Christmas and the 24th and 25th, and New Year's Day. Our January meeting is, organizational meeting is on the 8th at 6 o'clock. And then we obviously have the 2-day holiday, Friday, Monday on the 18th and 21st, and then we'll be back on the 22nd for the joint meeting with the school board at 4:30. That's confirmed, isn't it? Man, we sent that to them. 4:30.
What's it?
I let Dr.
4:30
Hellman know about it. I haven't heard anything back yet. He said he would, of course, he's no longer there, but he copied Dr. Calvert.
That's right.
But
We confirmed it with the interim, but yeah.
We haven't heard back yet.
Anyway, that's our plan, right? And we'll know on the 8th whether that's a good time, but that'd be 4:30 in the EOC and then the meeting at 6. So those are the things that we have on the calendar during this busy season. Hopefully no more snow, but hope.
Mr. Conway, our first project on capital projects, Mr. Conway, where are we on that? Just tell me if we finish negotiations or...
No. We've visited 2 localities.
Site visits.
And the last one was one that had converted from Bright to the company Tyler. And so we've asked for questions, which they were supposed to have been to our office yesterday, but we were closed, from the various departments that then we will send to the software company to answer. And then we're going to bring them on site for a meeting. They're on site with a meeting with the department heads and their staff that are having some heartburn.
One question. Does the system we're looking at actually import and export to Excel?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of them do.
They all do now.
Everyone we interviewed did this one fairly easily.
Because they're no longer green screen people.
When you say fairly easily,
Some were better than others. This one's pretty straightforward. You push a button, it looks like Excel if I remember correctly.
but it comes out in Excel?
Yeah. Pops
Yes,
up into
data
Excel.
dump. You can do data dumps from there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Colley, are the schools involved in this?
They have been. They did not make the last tour. They made the first one. I think we learned some things that helped the schools with some of their issues. It was process-driven in Spotsy versus you can set things up to make it more difficult. And so we learned some things in that first one that helped.
And we don't have to have the schools use the HR portion. They could use their own HR portion and just give us data dumps to our financial ledger.
Probably
at
correct.
the end. Can you include me on those meetings? Is that possible?
Yes.
I mean, I used to be involved in the industry. I might have a little bit to add. I don't know.
I will tell you that all the software vendors are very good with financials. Where they may struggle is with tax, because Virginia is unique to anywhere else in the country, and the software vendor we currently have is probably one of the stronger ones in the state due to their history of being here forever and the things they do. So that's where we're struggling.
And they all have shortcomings with FLMA, because that's an HR nightmare. So that's the sheriff and the fire and rescue folks will have issues there, but that's a small part of the whole thing. The big thing is financial.
Yeah, financials are pretty straightforward. I don't think anybody has really issues with financials. Where we're really looking at is in the Treasurer and Commissioner's office to make sure we're not pushing them backwards.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, thank you for a great year. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I have a second. All in favor? Leave.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.